Getting hauled into the station for selling stuff on the street at midnight was a new low, but it got worse when the cops pulled my record. The officer looked from the file to me, my face half hidden by a mask. Yale graduate. Huh. What are you doing selling junk out of card at 2 a.m.? That's when I saw it. The social security number on the file was mine, but the face in the photo belonged to Leo Vance. It hit me like a ton of bricks. 20 years ago, I was the one who got into Yale. I stumbled home in a daze, just in time to hear my wife, Chloe, on the phone. Leo, don't worry about Mason. I won't let him interfere with your life. Just focus on your fellowship abroad. It was her. Chloe was the one who helped Leo Vance steal my entire life. Nausea churned in my stomach. I turned to confront them both, to expose everything, but before I could take a step, a sharp, cold pain shot through my back. Chloe had stabbed me. I'm sorry, Mason, she whispered, her voice trembling. You can't get in the way of Leo's future. The world went dark. Then my eyes snapped open. I was sitting at a desk in my old high school classroom. Our guidance counselor was handing out college interest surveys. This time, I was taking my life back. Mason, decided where you're applying yet? My deskmate Jake's voice snapped me back to reality. A second ago, I was suffocating, the metallic taste of blood in my mouth. Now, I was staring at Jake's impossibly young face, and I knew. I was back. Mason, you okay, man? A grin spread across my face. I shook my head, feeling alive. Never better. Up front, Mr. Price, our guidance counselor, cleared his throat. Fill these out so I can get a sense of your preliminary choices. I stared at him. Mr. Price, Chloe's father. Our SAT scores have been released weeks ago. In this day and age, you applied to colleges online. This whole paper survey thing was a charade, a pretense for him to gather information. He wasn't guiding us. He was scouting for Leo. My hand tightened into a fist. I remembered how in my last life, this was the exact moment Chloe started pursuing me. I glanced at the survey and scribbled down a few random community colleges. I thought I was imagining it, but I could feel Mr. Price's eyes on me. Sure enough, after collecting the papers, he called out, Mason Hayes, can I see you in my office? He walked out, holding the stack of surveys. Jake nudged me. Dude, you scored a 1590. You're a shoo-in for Yale. I had the highest score in our class, a 1590, and yet I ended up with nothing. I got to Mr. Price so many times, asking what went wrong. He told me I'd aimed too high, that my application was a long shot. But he was the one who pushed me toward that pre-law track, wasn't he? My eyes drifted to the corner of the room where Chloe was pretending to sleep, her head on her desk. I gave Jake a nod. Yeah, things would be different this time. I pushed open the door to the guidance office. Mr. Price was waiting. Mason, you had an exceptional score. Why did you list these schools? He asked, pointing to the community colleges on my form. Great job placement rates, I said flatly. He was silent for a moment, then put on a fatherly tone. Let's not be hasty. For a bright young man like yourself, a career in law has a very promising future. As he spoke, he turned his monitor toward me, already logged into the Common App portal. I stared at the screen, the irony burning in my throat. He saw I wasn't playing along, so now he was going to pressure me into filling it out right here, right now. So he could swap my application with Leo's later? No thanks, Mr. Price, I said, standing up. I'm thinking of going to trade school. I really like welding. I turned to leave and nearly collided with Chloe, who was just walking in. Mason, she said, her voice smooth as silk. If you have any questions about the application, feel free to ask me. I've always wanted to go into law. My heart went cold. Of course, they were working on me from both sides, pushing me toward the pre-law program they had picked out for Leo. But I wasn't going to fall for it again. I nodded curtly. Thanks, but I'm good. I know what I want to major in. Chloe's smile faltered for a fraction of a second. Okay. I bolted from the office. On impulse, I stopped just outside the door, hiding around the corner as Chloe shut it. I leaned in to listen. Dad, Mason isn't cooperating, Chloe said, her voice tight with frustration. Can't we just pick someone else? My stomach dropped. She was willing to ruin someone else's life, too. Mr. Price's voice was cold and detached. Mason has the best scores. He's the safest bet. Our family owes Leo. You know that. I backed away silently, a bitter laugh stuck in my throat. They owed Leo, so they're going to pay him back with my future. Not this time. In my last life, after Chloe and I got together, I spent a year grinding, studying day and night to retake the SATs and reapply to college. Chloe offered to handle my application registration. Then she claimed the deadline had passed, that the system was closed, that they were cracking down on gap year students. I believed her. Later, I tried to enroll in night school for an associate's degree. She told me it was worthless, but I was determined. The morning of the entrance exam, my alarm never went off. I was late. I accused her of turning it off. She looked at me with wide, innocent eyes and said she was just worried I wasn't getting enough rest. I was shaking with rage, but she just pulled me into a hug. "Mason, let's just get married," she murmured. "I'll love you whether you have a degree or not." I broke down and cried in her arms that I dreamed of textbooks and equations. How could I just give up? Not long after, Chloe told me a work project had gone bad and she was drowning in debt. Like a fool in love, I worked myself to the bone, juggling 3, sometimes 4 jobs at a time. Looking back now, I see it all clearly. Being with me was never about love. It was about control. She had to keep me down to make sure I could never threaten the life she'd stolen for Leo Vance. Back in my dorm room, I got out of the shower and saw a text from Jake. Chloe had been asking everyone where I was. I typed back a one-word reply. So, she hadn't given up yet. My parents were working a construction job out of state. When they heard my SAT score, they wired me some money and ordered a cake to be delivered, saying they couldn't get back for another month. I understood. On their job, a day off meant a day's wages lost. I still had 2 days before the application deadline. I wasn't in a hurry, but someone else was. That evening, I went out for a walk and ran into Chloe. She smiled brightly. "Mason, what a coincidence. I thought you lived over in Westville," I said, my voice flat. Her smile didn't waver. "I was just in the area for an errand." "Where are you headed?" "I'll walk with you." "Don't bother," I said coldly. "Stay away from me." Chloe froze, a flicker of hurt crossing her face. "You hate me?" I stared directly into her eyes. "Yes, I can't stand you. So leave me alone." She took a shaky breath, genuinely confused. She was the most popular girl in school, the one everyone wanted. She couldn't comprehend why I would reject her so completely. If it weren't illegal, I would have killed her with my bare hands. The rage was a living thing inside me. "Mason, if you hate me, at least give me a reason," she said, her voice soft and pleading. Chloe was beautiful. I couldn't deny that. It's why I fell for her so hard the first time. Suddenly, a voice called out from down the street. "Chloe, what are you doing here?" Leo Vance came jogging over, grabbing her arm. I saw her whole body tense up. This was the first time I'd seen him up close in this life. The man who wore my future like a stolen coat. "Who are you?" Leo asked, eyeing me with suspicion. I smirked. "Mason Hayes. I'm in Chloe's class." Leo's face changed. "Didn't you say you were going to buy me snacks?" So, this wasn't a planned ambush after all. Chloe recovered quickly. "I forgot. Why don't you head home? I'm busy right now." Leo's voice rose. "Chloe, what the hell is that supposed to mean?" She pushed him away, and after a hushed, frantic exchange I couldn't hear, he stormed off. A moment later, she was back in front of me. "Mason, he's just the son of my mom's friend. Why are you telling me this?" I asked. Her expression turned deadly serious. "Because I like you, and I don't want you to get the wrong idea." The words made my stomach turn. "Here we go again. I don't like you," I said, my voice like ice. "In fact, looking at you makes me sick." The color drained from her face. She clenched her fists. "What did I do wrong?" I stared at her. "You're ugly, and your soul is rotten." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. I was done with this conversation. I turned and walked away. "Mason Hayes! I'm not giving up," she yelled after me. I sneered at myself. "You have 2 days. What can you possibly do? I'm going to submit my application at the very last second, and there won't be a thing you can do to stop me." The next day, when I got home from school, the hallway outside my apartment was filled with roses. Chloe was standing there, looking like a model out of a magazine. Her eyes locked on me. "Mason, my confession yesterday was too rushed. I want to do it right. No matter how you do it. I'm not interested," I said coldly. "Then who do you like? Is there someone prettier than me?" she asked, a note of panic in her voice. I took out my key, but she blocked the door. "Mason, I'm serious about you. I want to go to Georgetown with you for their pre-law program." I looked at her, feigning surprise. When did I ever say I wanted to study law? I laughed. "Sorry, but you don't have the scores for that. Dream on, little girl." Her Tone hardened. Mason, can you stop being so nasty? I just stared at her. If you've decided on law, she pressed, you should really submit your application soon. A wicked idea began to form in my mind. Nah, I said, a slow smile spreading across my face. I'm thinking of opening a garage. I want to be a mechanic. I could see a muscle twitch in her jaw. I unlocked my door, stepped inside, and slammed it shut, almost catching her nose. The next day, my phone blew up with texts. The whole school knew that Chloe Price, the queen bee, was publicly chasing me. The rumor, of course, had been started by Chloe herself. Mr. Price called me multiple times. I ignored them all. Then he called again. I finally picked up. He got straight to the point. Mason, you're a good kid. I have no objection to you and Chloe dating. Just like last time. Back then, I was so thrilled that her dad didn't look down on me for not getting into a good college. My daughter has always dreamed of becoming a great lawyer, he continued. I hope you two can work toward that goal together. I let a grin spread across my face, my eyes glinting. Okay. There was a stunned silence on the other end, followed by a relieved laugh. That's wonderful news, Mason. Truly wonderful. I hung up, nearly bursting with laughter. Just a moment ago, I'd changed my mind. This was going to be much more fun if I played along. I was going to make sure Leo Vance never set foot in a university. Without me as a target, I was worried they'd just find another victim. As expected, as soon as Chloe heard I'd agreed to date her, she rushed over to find me. Have you submitted your application yet? She asked immediately. Not yet. I'll probably do it tomorrow. I could see the relief wash over her. Do you want to go out tonight? She asked. I'm meeting up with some friends. Sure, I nodded. She looked at me, still a bit unnerved by my sudden change of heart. But what could she do? She was the one running out of time. Leo was there, of course. The moment he saw me, he shot me a death glare. Leo, is your eye twitching? I asked loudly. What? He sputtered. Why are you glaring at me? You do it again, and I'll poke your eye out. Leo shot to his feet, but Chloe immediately pushed him back down. Leo, behave yourself. His face turned red with anger. Chloe, how can you talk to me like that? I stood up and slapped him hard across the face. The entire table went silent. Leo clutched his cheek, and Chloe's expression hardened. Mason Hayes, how dare you hit me? Leo lunged at me like a wild animal, but Chloe threw herself in front of him, holding him back. Leo, calm down, she hissed. Just put up with it. Her words seemed to deflate him. He slowly sank back into his chair, his eyes still burning with hatred. Mason, you just wait. You'll regret this. I sat back down and started eating, ignoring the stares from everyone else. I made Chloe get my drinks and bring me plates of food. She did it all without a word of protest. Leo couldn't stand it. He mumbled an excuse about using the restroom and left. A few minutes later, Chloe followed him out. Dude, what's your secret? One of the guys at the table asked me. How'd you get Chloe Price to be so obsessed with you? I looked up from my plate. Jeder 1590 on your sats. She'll be all over you two. He laughed awkwardly, not believing me. I put my fork down and walked toward the restrooms. I found them in the hallway. Leo was gripping Chloe's arm, on the verge of tears. Chloe, why are you always on his side? She pulled him into a hug. Leo, just be patient. Everything will be fine after tomorrow. This is all for your college dream, she whispered. I'll make sure you get into that pre-law program. Leo finally managed to smile, but it vanished the second he saw me. He and I locked eyes. He frantically pushed Chloe away. Mason, you've got it all wrong, he stammered. She was just comforting me. Chloe's face went blank when she saw me. Mason, let me guess. You have an explanation? I said with a cold, mocking laugh. We're done. Agreeing to this was just a game to mess with her head, nothing more. Chloe rushed toward me, pleading, the person I love is you. I don't want to break up. She didn't know how much I'd heard, so she was being careful. I pointed a shaking finger at Leo, playing the part of the betrayed boyfriend. Then what were you doing hugging him? Relief washed over her face. She slowly approached me. He was just upset. I was comforting him, that's all. Yeah, Leo chimed in. She was just comforting me. As much as he hated me, he knew he had to play along to save the plan. I covered my face with my hands to hide my grin. No, I said, my voice cracking. I'm breaking up with you. I don't want something that's been touched by someone else. Chloe's expression twisted in anger. With that, I walked out of the restaurant and straight to the nearest police precinct. I walked up to the front desk, putting on a distressed look. "Excuse me, officer. My family doesn't have a computer. Is there any way I could use one here to submit my college application?" A kind-faced female officer smiled warmly and led me to a terminal right away. "What did you get on your SATs?" she asked as I logged in. 1590. Her eyes widened in surprise, then broke into a grin. "Wow, with a score like that, you must be aiming for the Ivy League, right?" "I'm applying to ala inadid." The finance program. After I submitted everything, several officers came over to congratulate me. "When you get that acceptance letter, you let us know," one of them said. "We'll celebrate with you." Tears welled in my eyes. "I will. I promise." This was the dream they had stolen from me. This time, I was going to get it back. When I got home, Chloe was huddled by my apartment door. The moment she saw me, she ran over. "Mason, please, let me explain. There's nothing going on between me and Leo. He's just the son of my mom's friend." I took a step back. "Just leave me alone. I'll just chalk this up to dating a terrible person. Okay?" "No," Chloe said, her face a mask of devotion. Just then, her phone rang. She saw the caller ID. It was her father, and went to decline it. A smile played on my lips. "Go on, answer it." She stared at me, then reluctantly answered, turning her back to me. She kept her voice low, but I didn't need to hear. I knew exactly what her father was asking. I spoke up from behind her, my voice casual but clear. "I already submitted my application." Chloe froze, the phone still pressed to her ear. The other end had gone silent. I laughed softly. "Still trying to get your hands on my score?" Her expression faltered. "What are you talking about? You wanted Leo to have my spot at Georgetown, didn't you?" I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Too bad. There's no door to that future anymore." Chloe hung up the phone. "I think you're overthinking things." I was done with the games. I slapped her hard. "Chloe, you have no shame?" I spat. "Trying to trade my future to kiss up to Leo. You're disgusting." A red mark bloomed on her cheek. She just stared at me. "Mason, you've misunderstood. I applied to Yale, not Georgetown. Your precious Leo isn't going to be a lawyer." That finally broke her composure. She grabbed my shoulders. "Mason, I'm begging you. Please give this spot to Leo. I'll give you anything you want." I shoved her off me. "Give me $10 billion, I said coldly. "What? 10 billion? Give me that, and he can have my spot at Yale." She stared at me, speechless. I laughed. "Can't afford it?" "Then stop asking. You're pathetic." It was like a dam broke inside her. "Mason, Leo's parents died, saving my life. I owe him this." I shoved her again, my voice rising to a shout. "Your family owes him. What the hell does that have to do with me? Why should I have to pay your debts?" She tried to grab me again, but I was trembling with rage. "Get off me. Don't touch me. You people are sick. You make me want to vomit." Her face crumpled. "I am sorry, Mason. Please, I'm begging you. Just change your application." How could she even say something so vile? "Get lost, if you want to repay Leo so badly. Use your own future." I fumbled with my keys and opened my door. Chloe threw her arms around me from behind, sobbing and pleading. "If you let him have it, I won't go to college either. I'll stay with you forever." I spun around and slapped her again. "Get off me, you filthy thing." The rage wasn't subsiding. I didn't care about hitting a girl anymore. I kicked her again and again. She scrambled to get away, still begging for forgiveness, her audacity absolutely mind-boggling. Finally, I landed a hard kick to her stomach, and she tumbled backward down the short flight of stairs in the hallway. I stood at the top, watching her coldly as she struggled, bruised and pained, to get back on her feet. I went inside and slammed the door. I wasn't worried about Mr. Price changing my application. I had changed all my passwords. He couldn't touch it. For a while, Chloe didn't bother me again. I thought maybe she'd finally given up. Half a month passed. My acceptance letter never came. I realized with a sickening certainty they had stolen my spot anyway. It seemed Leo Vance had decided he'd rather go to Yale than Georgetown. A wave of pure fury washed over me, but I forced myself to stay calm. I picked up the phone and called the police. My voice shook as I said, "I think my spot at college was stolen by another student." The officer who responded was the same woman who had helped me submit my application. "Are you sure, Mason?" she asked gently. I nodded. I never got my acceptance letter, but Leo Vance did. I scored a 1590 on the SATs. I added, he barely broke 1100. The discrepancy was too massive to ignore. The officer and her partner drove to Mr. Price's house. I followed behind them. The moment our guidance counselor saw us, a flash of panic crossed his face. I pointed at him, tears streaming down my face. It was him. He stole my spot. Mr. Price composed himself. Mason, what are you talking about? I never got my acceptance letter from Yale. I repeated, staring him down. Perhaps you overestimated your chances, he said, trying to sound reasonable. It's a very competitive school. That doesn't mean I stole anything from you. The female officer stepped forward. Mr. Price, I personally witnessed Mason submit his application to Yale. His scores were more than sufficient. His face went pale as he shot a look at me. I gave him a cunning little smile. I knew what you were planning all along. Just then, Leo and Chloe emerged from inside the house. Chloe's eyes widened in panic when she saw me. I raised my voice. Leo, where's your Yale acceptance letter? Seeing the police, Leo knew something was wrong. Acceptance letter? I haven't received it yet. I stared at him. That's impossible. The female officer put a calming hand on my shoulder. It's okay, Mason. We'll sort this out. Mr. Price stood his ground. Mason, if you're going to accuse me of something so serious, you need proof. I wiped my tears. The letter is the proof. It would have my social security number on it. 20 years ago, before everything was cross-referenced online in national databases, you could get away with something like this. Not so easily now, but the fraud had happened. Leo's face was as white as a sheet. He instinctively looked toward Chloe, but she was just staring at the floor. The officer walked toward him. Mr. Vance, could we please see your acceptance letter? You have no right to see my private mail, he stammered. She just smiled and held up her badge. That's what finally broke him. Leo burst into tears. Dad, what do I do? Mr. Price closed his eyes in defeat. The word Dad made Chloe's head snap up. What did you just call him? She asked, her voice dangerously quiet. Leo clamped his mouth shut, shaking his head and sobbing. I looked from Leo to Mr. Price. Now that I was looking for it, I could see the resemblance. They were father and son. Mr. Price, I asked, is Leo your son? The question hung in the air. Chloe's voice cracked. Dad, is Leo your son? She stared at her father, her eyes filled with a terrifying fury. Dad, how could you do this to me, to Mom? You cheated on her with Leo's mother. Mr. Price let out a long, weary sigh, his entire body slumping in defeat. He offered no explanation. Leo was still crying. He reached for Chloe's hand, but she violently slapped it away. He stumbled and fell to the floor, weeping uncontrollably. Get away from me, she spat. You make me sick. I never thought I'd hear Chloe say that to Leo. In our past life, her face would light up whenever she mentioned his name. If I got jealous, she'd admit she used to have a crush on him, but insist it was ancient history. She would celebrate his birthday every year, telling me it was just an obligation since he was practically her father's stepson. Whenever I asked to go with her, she'd always find an excuse to keep us apart. Now I knew why. He was using my identity, my name. But why wasn't Chloe happy now that Leo was officially her father's son? She was still screaming. Get out. Both of you make me sick. Leo scrambled up from the floor, still crying, trying to touch her. Chloe, She let out a wild, broken laugh, her eyes bloodshot. No wonder you rejected me when I told you I liked you years ago. You're my father's bastard son. I leaned against the doorframe, taking in the beautiful, chaotic mess. The police took all three of them, Leo, Mr. Price, and Chloe, down to the station. And the more they investigated, the more they found. This wasn't the first time Mr. Price had abused his position. Suddenly, my case seemed like the least of his problems. After giving my full statement, I walked out of the police station. Chloe was right behind me. She looked terrible. Mason, she called out. I turned to face her. I'm sorry, she said, her voice hollow. Are you satisfied now? I looked at her, truly alive, and shook my head. No, I'll be satisfied when you're dead. A wounded expression crossed her face, and for the life of me, I couldn't understand why. Why was she still putting on this act? Mason, I did like you, she insisted. I started watching you a year ago. The words made me feel ill. You mean you started scouting for a new prize pig? I said, cutting through her lies. She shook her head violently, tears finally breaking free. No, it's not like that. I really did like you. I knew you always got food from the last stall in the cafeteria. I knew you liked to look out the window while you memorized vocabulary. I knew all your little habits. I paused. In my past life, Chloe had known me better than anyone. But if she liked me, why did she kill me? It didn't make sense. Are you hoping I'll feel sorry for your dad and Leo? I asked, my tone dripping with suspicion. She looked startled. No, that's not what I meant at all. Then why do you always assume the worst of me? I laughed, because I know exactly what kind of person you are. You're a vile, backstabbing snake. The other students only like you because they're fooled by your perfect little act. Underneath it all, you're filthier than a truck stop bathroom. My words were brutal, and her face contorted with each one. Yet, after all that, she still had the nerve to ask, "Can we still be together?" I just stared at her like she was insane. My parents rushed home as soon as they heard what happened. Just like last time, they were my staunchest supporters, ready to drain their savings to fight for me. My dad sat on the porch, chain-smoking and sighing, while my mom couldn't stop crying. "Mom, it's okay," I said softly. I got into college. That made her break down completely. She hugged me tight. "You worked so hard. Your father and I, we don't understand any of this stuff. We feel so useless as parents." I patted her back. My dad stubbed out his cigarette, his eyes red. I knew they were blaming themselves, but the fault lay with the Prices and Leo Vance. I thought about how devastated they must have been in my last life when they learned I was dead. Chloe killed me just to protect Leo's future. Would she still love him that much now? Once my parents calmed down, I went back to the station and found a swarm of news reporters waiting outside. This kind of scandal was media gold. They surrounded me. "Are you Mason Hayes?" I stood tall. "I am. How do you feel about having your university spot stolen from you?" A small, bitter smile touched my lips. Furious. My own guidance counselor and his daughter conspired to cheat me, to use my future to pay a debt to someone else. And that someone else was your counselor's illegitimate son. I nodded, just as the female officer came and pulled me away. I wanted the entire country to be pointing their fingers at the Vance family. College admissions is a sacred thing. A scandal this big will be talked about for years. From the officer, I finally learned the full story behind the fire that killed Leo's parents. The Price family's house had caught fire because Mr. Price was there, having an affair with Leo's mother. They'd left the gas on. Leo's father, who was returning home next door, saw the flames and rushed in. Mr. Price, terrified of being discovered, climbed out a window and fled. Chloe had been taking a nap inside. Leo's father rescued her first, then went back for Leo's mother, but it was too late. Both of them burned to death. Hearing it all, I felt a wave of grim satisfaction. A few days later, my official acceptance letter from Yale arrived. I held in my hands, and a single tear traced a path down my cheek. This time, I was finally going to college. The media coverage was relentless. The Price and Vance names became synonymous with disgrace. People showed up at their houses to scream insults. In the age of the internet, the story went viral, and the court of public opinion was merciless. The official verdicts for Mr. Price and Leo were still pending, but I felt a sense of closure. I thought the worst was over. Then Chloe found me again. I was on my way to the grocery store when she appeared, blocking my path. She looked gaunt and exhausted, her head bowed. She just stood there in silence. I clutched the pocket knife in my jacket. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice tense. She looked up, her eyes a storm of conflicting emotions. Her voice was a dry rasp. "Mason." I didn't speak. She wasn't here to ask for forgiveness for them again, was she? "You were reborn, weren't you?" The words hit me like a physical blow. My blood ran cold. I turned to run. I won't hurt you," she called out, her voice desperate. I stopped, turning back to stare at her. "Chloe, you're disgusting." She didn't flinch, accepting the insult as her due. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I regret it. I really, truly loved you." My hatred boiled over. I slapped her again, so hard my palms stung. She fell to her knees on the sidewalk, burying her face in her hands as she sobbed. "I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me that day. I regret it so much." I stood over her, an empty wasteland in my heart. "After you died," she choked out, "I turned myself in. I loved you, Mason. I was trapped by that feeling of obligation for so many years, I could barely breathe. And it turns out I was the biggest joke of all. I used to like Leo, but I got over him a long time ago. Every single moment I was with you made me happy. Learning that Leo was her half-brother, a product of her father's betrayal, had shattered her world. The thought of what her mother must have endured was unbearable. My voice was flat. Your family's obligations. Why should someone else pay the price for them? And what about my stolen decade? What was that? I couldn't find a decent job. The few times I managed to get a foot in the door at a good company, I'd be fired for some inexplicable reason. Now I knew it was all Chloe's doing. Tears streamed down her face. She said she didn't expect me to ever forgive her. She asked what she could do to make me feel better. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Go away, I said, and never let me see you again for the rest of my life. The hope in her eyes shattered. She looked broken. I turned and walked home. Our old high school group chat was still buzzing with messages about Mr. Price. Everyone was horrified, wondering if they could have been a victim. Some people asked how I was doing. I typed a simple reply. Everything's fine. My parents cooked a huge feast for me and stayed for a few more days before heading back to work. After they left, gifts started appearing outside my door every day. All from Chloe. I threw every single one of them in the trash. Didn't she understand plain English? All she had to do was disappear. I wanted to build a new life, a bright future. I had no more time for toxic people. Maybe she got the message. After a while, the gifts stopped coming. The verdicts came down. Leo Vance was sentenced to 5 months in a juvenile detention center. Mr. Price was sentenced to 3 years in prison. When I heard the news, I smiled. The boy who dreamed of being a lawyer was now a convicted criminal. Over the summer, I got a part-time job to save up some money for school. I kept getting the feeling that someone was watching me, but whenever I turned around, no one was there. I eventually brushed it off. Payday was every 2 weeks. When I got my first paycheck, I noticed it was $100 more than it should have been. $100 was a lot of money back then. You've really boosted sales, my boss said with a grin. Consider it a bonus. I was thrilled and took the money. After my shift, I decided to treat myself to a burger from my favorite spot. When I ordered one, the guy at the counter handed me a bag with 4. Special promotion, he said. Buy 1, get 3 free. Maybe it was just my lucky day. But as I was leaving, the guy behind me ordered a single burger and only got 1. Hey, the man protested. What about the promotion? You gave that kid 4. The owner glanced at me, then looked uncomfortable. Sorry, the promotion just ended. The customer grumbled, but took his burger and left. That's when I knew something was wrong. I looked around, but I didn't see Chloe anywhere. I pulled the extra $100 from my wallet, dropped it on the sidewalk, and walked away. A moment later, her voice called out my name. Chloe ran to pick up the money from the ground. I stared at her, my voice cold as stone. Didn't I tell you to get out of my life? Tears streamed down her face. Let me work and take care of you. Okay. I just want to make things a little easier for you. I took out my own burger, then hurled the other 3 right at her face. You make me sick. Can't you just stay away from me? Her face was pale. I didn't go to college. I'm just like you were in our last life. I scoffed. She didn't go to college in our last life. She enjoyed all the benefits of university education while she watched me fall into ruin. Even if I hadn't gone to college, I could have made a good life for myself. But she had to invent that story about being in debt just to make sure I could never get back on my feet. What does that have to do with me? I gave her one last look of disgust and walked away. I quit that job and found some freelance work I could do from home. It didn't pay much, but it was enough to support myself and ease the burden on my parents. Chloe Price finally disappeared from my world. A weight I didn't know I was carrying lifted from my shoulders. Every time I saw her, I was reminded of the miserable man I used to be. A month later, it was time for college. My parents took time off work to drive me to New Haven. They were smiling all day long. They helped me move into my dorm, unpack everything, and passed out snacks from our hometown to my roommates. One of them recognized me. Hey, you're that guy from the news, right? The one who almost had his spot stolen? I nodded. He shook his head in disbelief. Man, I work my butt off to get into Yale. If someone tried to steal that from me, I'd probably kill them. I managed a small smile. They didn't succeed. He clapped me on the shoulder. You're taking it pretty well. What other choice did I have? In my last life, they did succeed. Leo Vance used my name, my identity, and built a brilliant career for himself, and I never even knew. The irony was suffocating. The first few weeks were a blur of orientation and settling in. I finally felt like I was adapting to college life. The old high school group chat was still active, with everyone sharing stories about their new schools. Then, one message popped up that stopped everything. Chloe Price committed suicide. The chat went silent for a beat, then exploded with questions and disbelief. I just stared at my phone, a strange calmness settling over me. Good. She's dead. The last ugly knot in my soul finally came undone. If it weren't for the law, I would have wanted to do it myself. But I couldn't let my new life be consumed by old hatreds. The class president sent another message. She left a note. It just said, "I'm sorry." It was obvious who the apology was for. I didn't say anything. I focused on my studies. College was everything I had dreamed it would be. I joined clubs, went to events, and spent my mornings with my roommates in the cavernous silence of the library, a place so popular that people would get up at 4 in the morning just to snag a desk. Half a year went by. The memory of Chloe and everything that happened began to fade. Then one day, I saw Leo Vance standing outside the university gates. He was shockingly thin, a shadow of his former self. When he saw me, he flinched, lowered his head, and scurried away like a frightened rat. He had served his time. His life was ruined, and it had nothing to do with me anymore. Those who do wrong will bring about their own destruction. This life, I had finally gotten my justice.